Which of these pans cooks the best steak? Carbon steel, stainless steel, or cast iron? Let's find out.
A big thanks to Scotsburg for sponsoring this video.
Cooking steaks is one of my favorite things to do, and the one method that I like to use the best of all is the reverse sear method. That means you smoke your steak first and then you grill it. In a barbecue, I know what that means. I like it over charcoal with a cast iron grill grate. But when it comes to cooking in a pan, what works best then to get that beautiful crust on a steak? Is it in a cast iron pan, a stainless steel pan, or a carbon steel pan? Let's find out. I selected a beautiful piece of meat. This comes from local grown beef, which has been raised in the proper way, been fed in the proper way, and that is why you get that beautiful intramuscular fat that's going to make our steak taste so good. The cool thing about buying a roast like this is that you can cut your own steaks. Long strokes. What a beauty. This steak just screams of flavor. Look, we got a little bit fat in the middle. We got the rib cap, which sits on top here, and that has the most intramuscular fat and tastes the best out of all the ribeye. The center, of course, is the most tender part, but the top, the cap that sits on top, is the most flavorful. So I got 5 proper steaks out of this, of which I'm going to use 3. The other 2 I'm going to put in my vacuum machine so I can freeze them and save them for later. Since I'll be using the reverse sear method, then the first part of the cook is going to be getting the steaks up to temperature. Now if you're cooking inside the kitchen, of course you would use your oven. But we're outside, and what better way to fire up the offset smoker to smoke them first. To fire up my smoker, I'm going to put in some small pieces of beech wood and fire them up. Once I got a bed of coals, I'm going to put in a big chunk of European oak. I'm going to season these steaks with a little bit of Texas barbecue seasoning. Once they're seasoned, I'm going to put these on a smoke rack, which is basically a cooling rack made of stainless steel, and I'm going to put these in the offset smoker. And now I'm going to let these smoke at a temperature of about 120 degrees Celsius, which is about 245 degrees Fahrenheit. Look at these beauties. Smoked to perfection, and I just love the reverse sear method and being able to smoke them like this. Get that flavor on, and then get to the next step and sear the steaks, making them even better. So let's get out the pans. The first pan that I'm going to test is the Scotsburg carbon steel pan. I'm just going to fire up my little burner here, and I'm going to preheat it a little bit. I'm not going to overdo it. I don't want to get to that smoke point where I start breaking down that seasoning again. To cook the steak properly, I'm going to pat it dry with a paper towel, removing as much moisture as possible. Then I'm going to put some neutral cooking oil in the pan. I'm going to give it a little bit of time to warm up. As you can hear, the pan's warm. Time to put the steak in. Make sure that it makes good contact. I'm going to lower the heat a little bit. Let's just check to see what's going on. Wow, that is a good crust. That is going fast. A little more, a little longer. Of course, I'll be searing both sides. This is actually looking pretty good. Just going at the lowest setting, but this pan, it keeps on producing heat. It's even, I got it switched off now because the pan is taking on so much heat. So far I'm really liking what the carbon steel does. Now that is some good looking results. I'm gonna put this steak to the side. So far the carbon steel pan did a great job, but let's see how the stainless steel pan compares to this. Again, I'm going to preheat the pan, let it get up to temperature a little bit, and with stainless steel you can go much higher than with the carbon steel because there's no layer of seasoning. Once it picked up some heat, I'm going to put in that neutral cooking oil, let that come up to temperature. Let's get that steak out. Gotta make sure I pat it dry, put it in the pan. Just check to see how fast this is going. Wow, that's going pretty quick. Look at that. Again, a beautiful crust. And make sure you have hot oil underneath your steak. So just lift it up, get that hot oil underneath. That looks pretty good. Let's take it off, set it aside against the carbon steel, and then move on to the final pan. Yes, the cast iron pan, the king of sears. Will it be better than the carbon steel and the stainless steel? Now all these pans are made by the same manufacturer, Scotsburg, which is also the sponsor of this video, so a big thanks to them for supporting the channel. I'm gonna again heat the pan, let it come up to temperature. That is definitely taking longer. In about 2 minutes, I'm up to 150 degrees Celsius, which is around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The other pans, especially the carbon steel pans, we were talking about seconds. We were talking about even seconds with the stainless steel. The thing with a cast iron is, if it's hot, then it's hot. So don't touch it with your bare hands. Just gonna move that all around, wait for it to come up to temperature. Pat it dry with a paper towel. Because the cast iron takes time to warm up and it just retains all that energy, and once you put something in the pan that has a lower temperature, it's just going to release it all at once into your steak, building up that crust, and you can just let it sit there a little bit, let it relax. Let's do the other side. Of course, I'm going to give these steaks a few minutes just to relax a little bit. It always makes the steak taste a little bit better. Time for the final verdict. This is the carbon steel steak, this is the stainless steel steak, and finally the cast iron steak. Which of these steaks has the best crust? That is so hard to tell. All three have an amazing color because they're smoked, and they have a beautiful crust because they were pan seared. The crust on all of these are about the same in strength-wise and sound-wise. I'm gonna cut these in half. Let's do the flip. Carbon steel pan looks freaking amazing. Stainless steel looks great too. And finally, the cast iron. I'm gonna take a slice out of the carbon steel pan and we're going to do the taste test. Since optically, we do not have much difference, I hope that the taste test will deliver a final verdict. If you want a winner for searing steak, it's probably still going to be the cast iron because it's so easy to handle. You're going to get a good crust. But if you have a stainless steel pan or thinking about buying one, it's going to give you just as good as a crust if you're using the reverse sear method. Then is the carbon steel pan the worst out of all of them? No, it's not. It's great. It's the good crust. If I would have to do this test blindfolded, I would probably not notice the difference of carbon steel. I'll probably be using that cast iron for now. And I'm just gonna eat them all. Yeah. Everybody loves steak.